Hey guys, this is Jeff Newton
and Bill Combs
with Flashbang Creative, and today what we're going to talk about is what separates your hobby from becoming your real full-time gig.
Right. Basically, this podcast is going to be breaking it out into bullet points of what separates your business, because that's what this is. This is your business. This isn't a side gig. This isn't a part-time job. What separates your business from the big dogs, the guys who are doing this full-time, living the dream?
Yeah, and hopefully you guys will pick that up as we dive into some of these topics. We get pretty passionate about it because we've lived it and breathed it. We've failed plenty. We've learned from those mistakes, and that's really ultimately what we're here for now, is to share with you some of those bumps in the road to avoid, so that our issues can become your benefit. So,
well, one thing that we've found to be true, and I don't have any numbers to back it up, but I've got plenty of stories, especially because we've reached out to a lot of instructors who were registered on, their state registry as, legitimate concealed carry instructors, and they've closed their doors. They've closed the shop. And following up with them and, just asking why, what happened. Of course, some of those are just, they're retired. They got out of the business, or they're traveling reasons now. But others is money. They weren't making any money in it. They just weren't. They weren't doing well. And one thing that, you need to really wrap your mind around is one of the strongest and most solid industries in the U.S. right now is the firearms market. I know that's slowed down right now. We're in what the firearms industry is calling the Trump slump. And basically that's because there's really no threat during this current administration, but hey, we're one administration away from being back where we were. But what I'm getting at is the money is there, right? So if the money is there and it's being spent, right, but you're not getting a piece of that pie, what does that tell you?
Ultimately, as we dug deeper with some of those instructors, both the ones that have made it and are making it can continue to do really well, and the ones that have gotten out of the game altogether. When we dug deeper and asked the question why, and we went 5 whys deep, we didn't accept anything less than that. In a lot of ways, what we found is that in the end, I don't want to, throw any stabs here, but ultimately it was they didn't take it seriously, didn't approach it as an actual business. There was no long-term play.
They're winging it.
They're completely winging it. One of the first questions we would ask as we got to, around the 3rd or 4th why is, well, what was your business plan? What was your vision? Where did you want it to go 6 months from now?
And crickets.
Yeah, it's tap, tap, hello, did I lose you? And it wasn't to be spiteful or a smart ass or anything like that. It was simply, asking some what we thought were not basic questions, but some of the tough questions. You had to be honest with yourselves. And again, taking it back on us, we didn't always do it right. We can float around in in the atmosphere for a while without a true purpose, because early on it was a side gig for Bill and I, and so we didn't have a business plan that was more than one sheet of paper or more than 3 sentences for each bullet point.
But not to interrupt you there, but we did have something, and that's the importance. We're not talking about drawing up a doctrine here. We're not talking about drawing up something like you would have to have for a bank loan. Yeah. All you're wanting is to get ideas on paper that are focused, and how you're going to execute. What are you going to do with this business? Which direction are you going to go, and how are you going to get there? How are you going to stay in the market? You
would be amazed at the power of putting it on paper. There's a lot of psychology behind that, which I won't bore you with now, but you would be amazed at the advancement and commitment and drive you will get out of simply putting that goal on paper. And maybe that's the beginning of your business plan, is simply stated 1 or 2 or 3 goals, period. But then don't stop there. Once you have them on paper, you need to share those with somebody else.
Well, and they can't just be the goals, because goals are easy, right? It's the execution that's why most businesses fail. They don't execute properly. So you can't just have ideas on canvas. You've got to break it out. It's got to be a little more elaborate than, I want to fill seats in these classes. Well, how are you going to do that? So what we did, we're not Harvard business grads. We use the 5-paragraph op order. I come from a military background, and that made sense to me. So that's literally what we did. We put together an op ord, and that was our business plan. And from there, we had it on paper. So we knew what we had to do. Now we just had to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, and there was no shortage. Again, if we just focused in on the ones that are making it and the ones that we would classify as successful, they're the ones that were out there grinding. They did not accept the mindset of, if we build it, they will come, just like we failed with.
Yeah, because they will not come.
Yeah, they will not come. If you build it, it really doesn't matter.
No.
You still have to get out there and grind. You have to be visible. You have to be present. You have to be hustling to get that next gig and the next, student. They simply won't come. Now, it may feel like that the first class, maybe the second class, depending on how big your network is. Anyone that happened to know you or friends of a friend, everyone's going to be excited that you're now an instructor, and maybe you fill those first couple of classes. But after that, if you aren't being intentional about what you do with those students and building that relationship, either A, those students aren't going to come back for any additional training because you didn't give them a reason to, or B, you're going to run out of those leads because you only have so many 7 layers of Kevin Bacon, so to speak.
Or you're not even following up. They might not even know you offer other courses. What we're kind of getting at is one commonality to everyone, even the guys that failed versus the guys that are still in the business today and crushing it, is they all started out the gate through word of mouth, right? So everybody has, a sphere of influence, and that would be their friends, their friends' friends, colleagues at work, their colleagues' friends, and so on. But eventually that dries up. There's only so many people who are going to pull the trigger. So what you have to do is, A, find your target market, and maybe we should bust into that. So one thing that we've found with the really successful guys out there, right? The guys who have sort of dominated their market space in their area, is they have a specific target market. And what I mean by that is they offer all the courses, right? Everybody knows, it's no secret, CCW is what keeps the lights on. That's your steady business flow. In most cases,
it's your loss leader, right?
Yeah, everybody does it. But most of these guys have some sort of specialty, be it long-range precision, TAC med, tactical handgun, tactical rifle. They've got some sort of bread and butter to diversify, or I should say to separate them from the pack. And
yeah, because that's probably the second biggest mistake we see is, one, if you build it, they will not come. And 2, you can't be everything to everyone, because then you're just white noise. You're out there competing in a space where all the other guys are doing the exact same thing. So you have to differentiate yourself. And the way to do that is to know your strengths, understand what the marketplace is asking for, and in your locality. So, where you are, in your city, in your area, you should know about how far someone's willing to travel to come to a training. So what isn't being offered in your area that you possess the skill for? And you don't have to overthink it, because in a lot of ways, you probably already are an expert in something that you just don't realize you have that level of depth in. And somebody out there is probably interested in it too, and is willing to pay for that knowledge and that real world experience for you to train them on it.
Yeah, we've got some guys who their passion and where they really kill it is a basic firearm course, the basic handgun course. They're passionate about introducing beginners to firearms and properly educating them on. Now, it's not as sexy as like a tactical carbine class or anything like that, but it's what they're passionate about and what they're known for.
Yeah, and the really nice part about being, finding that sweet spot where you truly are passionate about it. Passion is one of those things. It's one of those intangible characteristics or traits that really comes off, and people can't help but get excited about it with you. And so if you're passionate about it, that comes through in your instruction and really instills into that student too. And maybe the one other note to make on the basic and the fundamental stuff is, you generally speaking have the largest ground to make up, right? You can really take someone from being able to put 6 rounds inside a silhouette to 6 rounds inside a 6-inch group or something, and they're going to be excited about that.
Well, yeah, and I was just on the phone with a prospective customer from Texas yesterday, and he was telling me that his passion, like I said, this is why it's fresh in my mind, is the entry-level stuff. And, he's going over it, why, it's his favorite thing to do. He loves it. He believes in the cause, yada, yada, yada. I believe in that too, but all I'm thinking is, dude, this is genius. You're getting them at the beginning. So you're able to now take them from the beginning, meaning I'm an entry-level person and now have a gun, and you're able to give them the bug, man. Now you're going to get them on the repeat business side. There's only one way to go, and it's up.
Yeah, that's probably a great transition into the number 3 reason we see people struggle or instructors decide to hang up their hat is it goes long beyond the business plan and the drive and the hustle and the grind and getting out there and doing it. You really have to take a step back and look at the business as you're approaching it and break it up into 3 phases. It's the before they're a customer, before they're a student. What is it that you're putting out there into the world that's going to, 1, get you seen, and 2, convince or persuade somebody to come take a class with you and not the other guy. But then there's the during. So, okay, they've opted in. They said, yep, I'm going to take this class with this instructor. You have one chance, right? One first impression, one training session, one finite period of time to win that person over and make an impression that would have that person wanting to come back to you for further training, which then transitions into the after. So after session day, after training is over, what are you doing and how are you breaking out your business to stay in front of that person or stay in front of the prospect to get them to come back, even if it's to come back to the same class, because they're still going to learn something. They're going to take something away from the exact same class simply by going through it. These are deteriorating skills. So,
oh yeah, and too many of these instructors out there treat students like a one-night stand. Hit it and quit it, and that is not how it should be. You need to follow up. You need to massage this relationship and make it continue. I mean, that's repeat business, and not only that, but your sphere of influence just increased by exponentially, because now that individual's bought into your brand, your business, and he's going to tell his buddies at work on Monday.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things as far as a mindset shift goes, you got to think about that as the toughest sale is the first one, right? So they don't know you. They don't know that they like you. Should they even trust you? You still have all of those barriers up. Do they give you that money? And that's really the biggest obstacle. But you've got to switch your mindset to recognize that the easiest sales are going to be to bring that student back into another training because they already know you, they like you, they trust you, you gave them a good experience, they grew. Yeah, you're their guy. And to Bill's point, if you're catching them early at the beginning stages of marksmanship, then think of the long-term relationship or the long-term lifetime value of the customer.
Oh yeah, that's a big one right there. Remember that phrase.
We'll probably have an entire episode or series of episodes around lifetime value of the customer and how to know what it is. Maybe another term to toss out there is cost of acquisition, right? So what did it cost you to acquire that customer or that student? But those are going to be in-depth topics for another episode.
Well, and another teaser that we'll get into is prospecting, which is basically marketing. And how you're doing it. I mean, if you're just word of mouth, that's only going to go so far. That is why businesses fail right there, is nobody markets. If somebody tells me that they don't have a marketing budget, no matter what business is, it could be a roofer, then I just I no longer take them seriously because they don't want to grow. They just want to stay where they're at, and they'll slowly die. They'll slowly die off to the competition who is operating their business more intelligently. And the best way to go about this is to find where your customers are living. And what I mean by that is the spaces at which they...
where do they spend their time? When they have a down minute, where do they grab their phone out of their pocket and go to?
That would be social media.
All right, social media. Which websites do they hit? Which forums are they actually on? Which magazines might they read online, if that even exists anymore?
Yeah, and that's the problem, okay, straight up. And we're going to have a breakout of marketing and whatnot and how our industry, it doesn't matter if you're a manufacturer or a instructor, anywhere in the firearms space is dinosaurs. They are operating their business like it's their dad's company.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you don't read about somebody in the back of a firearms magazine anymore and write to them to learn more. No, that's not how it works now. Now you're on social media. And, to be honest, I wasn't a big social media guy before we got into business. And, I still am not, from a personal standpoint. But from a business standpoint, I live in the social media space because it converts to dollars.
Yeah, and the best part about it is, this isn't, while it can be really intimidating and while it can feel overwhelming, the best part is the tools themselves, the platforms, the Facebooks, the Twitters, they understand this, and they've built their advertising functions, their tools around being able to segment and sort and filter and target. It's why they use the word targeting when you're running a campaign. So you can already get your message in front of the people that it actually matters for, so that you aren't offering firearms training to people that are interested in how to best buy the organic pineapple from whatever state on Tuesday, because you can segment those folks out. Not that people that like firearms don't like organic pineapple, but when it comes to targeting and ad space, you can use their tools to target within your geographical area for topics and segments that that they'd be interested in, and put your ad in front of them, period. So it isn't even about standing on the tallest soapbox with the loudest megaphone anymore. You can really get to people with a whisper because you're going to be talking their language, and they're already going to be predisposed to you.
Well, let me just throw this out there. I just Googled Facebook value, and Facebook was founded in 2004, and it is, as of 2016, estimated to be worth $350 billion. And CNN's money column said that it could one day be worth $1 trillion. Why is that? Where does the money come from? It's advertising. It is a statistical fact that Facebook is the most valuable ad space on the entire planet, period, end of story. And you need to be a part of that. The money is there. It wouldn't be worth that amount if it wasn't worth it. So we can teach you how to market appropriately on the social media channels and how to navigate the red tape that just come along with being part of our...
Yeah. And it's maybe important to just throw back out there for those of you that maybe haven't listened to any of the earlier podcasts, but Bill and I's background as far as our experience in the firearms space is coming from an online retailer distributor. We're an FFL, SOT, turned firearm instructors, turned solution provider basically for other firearms professionals. And so really the experiences that we have from founding Inalienable Arms was learning how to get around all of those obstacles, because the industry's out there to fuck you, period. It just is.
And the people in our industry are an easy mark, man. And most of them aren't tech guys. This industry is dominated by middle-aged men or older that frankly never had to invest or any of their time, money, or resources into technology to make it, and therefore their market share slipping straight up. Go to SHOT Show and see how many new industry giants there are that wasn't around in 15 years ago.
Yeah, and at the same time, all of the foreign knockoffs of everything else that's being built here.
Right, and this is huge. We will do a marketing segment, maybe next or sometime very soon, because I'm gonna tell you guys, after talking to hundreds of instructors, it does not take very much effort to dominate your area, because no one's doing it right.
Right. You simply have to outperform that one guy next to you, essentially. So with that, I know we threw a ton of topics and didn't go incredibly deep in them in this episode, but
teaser.
We wanted you to get an understanding of where we're looking to go with this and the type of information that we're going to be delivering to you, fully in-depth. We're a big believer in having it be actionable, which means at the end of every podcast, we want you to be able to have at least one idea that you can walk up to a piece of paper or sit down at a computer and be able to turn it into an action immediately and see a return for your business. So
yeah, our sole purpose here is to empower the market. We're not getting paid for this podcast. We just believe in the in the mission of promoting and debastardizing the firearm market. And so come back, listen to us. We're going to provide a lot more material and teach you guys how to run your hobby or your side gig like a real business and see results.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.